I'm Doug Hennig, lead developer of the Stonefield Query family of products from Stonefield Software. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a custom version of Stonefield Query for your applications database. After you launch Stonefield Query Studio, the first step is to create a new project. You can do that either by choosing New Project from the File menu, clicking on the New Project button in the toolbar, or under the Tasks panel in the Start page, clicking on New Project. Either way, it brings up a new project wizard where you can specify the project settings. The first thing to specify is the name of the project. We're going to call this Northwind Reporting Tool. You can specify both a long name and a short name. In the case of the short name, you might want it to be something a little bit shorter, like say Northwind Reports or something like that. This is the name that will appear in various places in Stonefield Query. The location is where you want the project files for this to appear. So I'm going to pick a folder on my machine. There are several options here as well. Whether you want to allow multiple data sources. Can the user query against multiple databases at the same time? Can the user edit the SQL statement for the report? Do you allow queries on multiple data sources at the same time? The next step is where you specify how to connect to the database so that it can go and retrieve the information about that database. You can specify whether this is going to be an ODBC connection, an OLADB, whether it should access Visual FoxPro data, or an empty database, which is used if you need to do things like access non-traditional data source like flat text files, web services, or applications with an API. I'm going to use an ODBC DSN, so I'm going to choose one that points to the Northwind sample database that comes with SQL Server. There are other options here as well. I can specify a username and password if I need to connect to the database. This option, add all databases to data dictionary, is turned on by default. If you turn that option off, then it'll bring up a dialog asking you to pick which tables you want added to the data dictionary. Normally, views are not included in the data dictionary. If you turn this option on, then it will include those as well. Once you have your options set, click on Finish. Stonefield Query will create the project files, and then we'll go and read the data structures from the data dictionary, pulling in all the tables, fields, relationships between tables and fields, and so on. We'll come back as soon as this is done in a few seconds. Okay, Stonefield Query has now finished reading in all of the tables and fields and relationships for the Northwind database. If we expand this database node here, we can see a list of the tables, and if we drill down a little bit, for example, we can see in the customers table, there is a company name field or contact name field is a 30-character varchar. There's customer ID and so on. It also read in relationships, so it knows that customers is related to orders by joining on the customer ID field in each of those tables. The next step is to customize the data dictionary. And there are various things you can do here. One of them would be to fill in descriptive names or captions for all the tables and fields if they weren't read in. In this case, they actually were read in, so it knows that this company name field should be displayed as company space name. But of course, you can change that if you want to, or if it didn't read in captions, then you can fill those in now. Other kinds of customization you can do are to indicate that certain tables and fields shouldn't be visible to the user. Some of these tables here, for example, are for testing purposes. I don't want the user to be able to see those in Stonefield Query, so I'm going to turn off the reportable status. And you can see by the red X in the list that these tables will not show up in Stonefield Query. You can do the same thing at the field level. For example, the customer ID field is the primary key for this table. If the user never sees it in their application, why would they want to be able to report on it? So we can make that field non-reportable as well. Another kind of customization you could do is to create calculated fields. For example, our order details table is a normalized table, so there are unit price and quantity fields, but there is not a total price field. Of course, the user is going to want to query on that, so what we can do is create a calculated field in the data dictionary. So I'm going to go up to the Objects menu and choose Create Field. Now, this does not create a field in the database. This is something that's stored in the data dictionary only. We'll call it Total Price. It'll be a currency field. We'll give it a caption of total price. The difference between caption and heading is the caption is the name that appears in the Stonefield Query dialogs, whereas heading is the default column heading. By default, they're the same, but they could be different. You might want to use an abbreviation here, for example, and perhaps indicate that this should appear over 2 lines by pressing Enter where you want the line break to occur. I want the $sign or currency symbol to appear in front of the field, and I want 3 places, a comma every 3 places, and 2 places after the decimal. Now, on the calc page, I have to indicate what the formula or output expression for this calculation is. So let's bring up the expression builder and put in a formula of quantity times unit price. So here's our calculated field now, ready whenever the user needs to query on it. Another kind of customization I can do is to handle enumerated fields. In the orders table, there's a ship via field that is an integer field. It contains a 1, 2, or a 3. Now these values aren't looked up anywhere. A 1 means FedEx, a 2 means UPS, a 3 means mail. We see this a lot in accounting systems, for example, where invoice status might be I for invoice, P for posted, V for voided, things like that. Now the problem is when the user chooses this field for a report, they're going to see 1, 2, or 3, not FedEx, UPS, or mail like they're expecting. So on the special page, I'm going to tell this Stonefield query, this field contains enumerated values, and I'll define a 1 as FedEx, a 2 as UPS, and a 3 as mail. So the user will never see a 1, 2, or 3 in the Stonefield query. They'll only see FedEx, UPS, or mail like they're expecting to see. In the products table, I have a category ID field. That's a foreign key to the categories table. To make it easier for the user, we want them to be able to display the category name when they pick this field, because after all, this integer foreign key is kind of meaningless to them. So on the special page, I'm going to tell Stonefield Query that rather than displaying this integer foreign key value, we want to display a field from a related table. So I'll choose the categories table and the category name field. What will happen when the user picks this field for a report is that Stonefield Query will grab the category ID, look it up in the category table, find the matching record, grab the category name, and display that instead. To make it more obvious what's going on here, I'm going to change the caption to category name because that's what the user will see, not the category ID. There are lots of other kinds of customization you can do in your data dictionary, such as defining modules or data groups, using user groups for role-based security, scripting, and so on. We'll talk about those kinds of things in another video. So thank you very much for watching this, and have fun playing with Stonefield Query Studio, and have a great day.